In 1573, a single man's greed triggered the collapse of the world's richest maritime empire, and his name wasn't even supposed to be on the books. Picture this. It's 1870, and Venice is literally the New York City of the Renaissance world. We're talking about a city built on water that somehow became the Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and Amazon of its time, all rolled into one. The Venetian Republic controlled trade routes from Europe to Asia. Every single luxury item you can imagine, silk from China, spices from India, precious metals from the Americas, it all flowed through Venice. The city was so wealthy that other European kings would literally beg Venetian merchants for loans. Now enter our protagonist, and I use that term very loosely, Giovanni Bembo. But here's the thing, Bembo wasn't some street-level trader. This guy came from one of Venice's most prestigious patrician families. We're talking old money, political connections, the works. His family had been in the silk trade for generations. But in 1570, something shifted in Giovanni's brain. Maybe it was greed, maybe it was ambition, or maybe he just got high off his own success. Because what happened next would make the 2008 financial crisis look like a kid's lemonade stand going out of business. Here's what you need to understand about the silk trade in 1570. It was the luxury commodity. Think of silk like Bitcoin in 2021. Everyone wanted it, the price kept going up, and fortunes were made overnight. Giovanni looked at this market and thought, why settle for normal profits when I can corner the entire market? So he starts buying, not just buying, hoarding. Giovanni begins purchasing massive quantities of raw silk from producers across northern Italy. We're talking about silk worth millions in today's money. But here's the criminal part. He's not using his own money. See, Venice had this system called commenda. Basically, wealthy investors would pool money together for trading ventures. It was like a medieval hedge fund. Giovanni convinced dozens of Venice's wealthiest families to invest in his silk operation. The Morosini family, one of Venice's most powerful dynasties, they're in for 50,000 ducats. The Barbarigo family puts up another 30,000. We're talking about the equivalent of tens of millions of dollars today. But Giovanni tells them he's buying silk for immediate resale to Northern European markets. He's not telling them he's actually stockpiling everything in secret warehouses, trying to create an artificial shortage. And for about 18 months, it's working. Silk prices start climbing. Giovanni's looking like a genius. His investors are happy. The man is living like a Renaissance rock star. New palazzo, private gondoliers, throwing parties that would make Jay Gatsby jealous. But by 1572, cracks start showing. Because Giovanni's plan has one tiny flaw. It's completely unsustainable. See, when you corner a market, you don't just affect prices, you affect the entire ecosystem. Silk workers in northern Italy start losing jobs because there's no raw material to work with. European buyers start looking for alternatives. And worst of all, Chinese and Ottoman suppliers start getting suspicious about why their biggest customer suddenly wants to buy everything but isn't shipping anything out. Meanwhile, Giovanni's burning through cash like a Renaissance crypto bro. Storing massive quantities of silk isn't cheap. You need climate-controlled warehouses, security, insurance. Plus, silk degrades over time. It's not like he's hoarding gold bars. And here's where it gets really interesting. Word starts spreading through Venice's merchant community that something's off. These guys weren't stupid. They'd been in international trade for centuries. They start noticing that silk prices are rising, but actual silk goods aren't moving through Venice's ports like they should be. The Venetian government starts asking questions. Remember, Venice wasn't just a city. It was a republic run by merchants for merchants. Market manipulation wasn't just bad business. It was basically treason against the state. By early 1573, Giovanni's house of cards is wobbling. He owes money to suppliers, his storage costs are astronomical, and his investors are starting to demand returns. But he can't sell his silk without crashing the very market he's trying to manipulate. Then, in March 1573, disaster strikes from an unexpected direction. Mother Nature. A massive storm hits the Adriatic Sea, flooding several of Giovanni's secret warehouses in the Venetian lagoon. We're talking about silk worth hundreds of thousands of ducats, completely destroyed overnight. But here's the kicker. Giovanni can't claim insurance because that would mean admitting he was stockpiling massive quantities of silk, which would expose his entire scheme. So what does our boy Giovanni do? He doubles down. He starts borrowing money from Venetian banks to buy more silk, trying to replace what he lost. But now he's not just manipulating the market, he's doing it with borrowed money while hiding massive losses. The end comes in June 1573. Giovanni owes money to so many people that he literally cannot keep track of his debts. When several major investors demand their return simultaneously, the truth comes out. The Venetian authorities discover that Giovanni has embezzled over 400,000 ducats, roughly $40 million in today's money. But it gets worse. His scheme was so large that it had created artificial scarcity across European silk markets, driving up prices and disrupting trade relationships. Venice had maintained for centuries. The collapse is immediate and brutal. Dozens of Venice's wealthiest families lose their entire investments. 3 major banks fail. The silk trade, one of Venice's most profitable industries, is completely destabilized. Giovanni himself? He flees Venice in the middle of the night, probably heading for Ottoman territory where Venetian law couldn't touch him. He's never seen again. The damage to Venice was catastrophic and permanent. The silk market crash of 1573 marked the beginning of Venice's economic decline as a global trading power. Other European cities, particularly Amsterdam and London, stepped in to fill the void. They offered more stable, regulated markets that international traders could actually trust. Venice's reputation for financial reliability, built over centuries, was destroyed in less than 3 years. The Venetian government implemented strict new regulations on commodity trading, but it was too late. International merchants had already started taking their business elsewhere. By 1600, Venice had lost its position as Europe's primary trade hub. But here's the most tragic part. Venice never recovered. The city that had been Europe's gateway to the world gradually became what it is today. A beautiful museum city living off tourism rather than the dynamic economic powerhouse it once was. So what's the lesson here? Giovanni Bembo's story isn't just about one greedy merchant in Renaissance Italy. It's about what happens when individual greed becomes so massive that it threatens entire economic systems. Sound familiar? In 2008, we saw how subprime mortgage speculation by individual actors could crash global markets. In 2021, we watched GameStop and AMC stock manipulation play out in real time on social media. The tools change. Giovanni used warehouses and gondolas. Modern traders use algorithms and derivatives, but the fundamental pattern remains the same. Someone thinks they're smart enough to corner a market. They over-leverage themselves, and when reality hits, everyone else pays the price. Venice's story reminds us that even the most powerful economic systems are fragile. Trust, built over centuries, can be destroyed in months by people who think they're too clever for consequences. The merchant who bankrupted Venice teaches us that in economics, as in physics, what goes up must come down, and when it does, it rarely falls alone. Subscribe for more hidden history stories.